Hello. Welcome to the Ask the Doctor call here on Tuesday. I'm going to say evening because that's where it is on the East Coast. But if you're joining us from another time zone, still welcome. My name is Jeanette Chambers. I'll be your co-host tonight with Dr. Carolyn Hoffman. And I'm excited to be here because as Linda Cheney had talked about, which I hope that you'll all take a few minutes to revisit that story. I've been here for 11 years and I can't imagine a day without what this product can do for me. And it changes as I change, but I always seem to be going backwards. Like I'm getting younger. And while my other friends, they're aging, are getting older. And it's a really wonderful feeling to know that your body can manage itself as you're aging and slow down that process. And even if you had a condition like Linda's, it does end up healing. And with time, it does its magic. So it's a pleasure to be here with you. And as I said earlier, I was introduced to this product by a friend, very much like how you got here, probably. Someone invited you here. And my friend was Dr. David Silverman. He was patient with me. I didn't jump in right away. And there were some situations going on in my family, and that was the reason why I came to this. I realized it could help my son, and that was 11 years ago. And so tonight, our goal is to explain this technology and product in such a way that you will leave excited about the possibilities that are in store for your health and how you may live longer, younger, and feel better as you're aging. At the very least, you're going to want some more information to continue your education on cellular health and how we power the redox signaling molecules in your body. People come to learn about ASEA's technology and products for a number of reasons. You may identify with one or more of them. One is that you have your own health challenge and you'd like to address it with a safe, non-toxic option. Or, like I did, you love someone who has a health challenge and you're looking for an option. Or you have the mindset of being proactive about your health and you believe in that your body can heal itself and you want that in your life. You don't want to have to address illnesses before they're too late. Or you're an athlete, an extreme athlete or a weekend athlete that wants to remain physically fit, maybe have faster recovery rate and longer endurance. And then there are those that just want the anti-aging benefits, like the skin glow and less wrinkles, more energy, greater focus, balanced hormones, and all of those things that come with the beauty of this big blue bottle. Then for some, there is a business possibility. So what you might want to understand what it looks like to partner with ASEA and help us bring this technology to the world. And then there are those that just like to give back. And so Dr. Hoffman will touch on these tonight. And I believe you came here to learn with an open mind. You are already aware of the reason that you brought you here, but I hope that you will hear more than you anticipated and that it opens up your imagination and how you can help yourself and others that you care about. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat and they will be addressed after Dr. Hoffman's presentation. Before she takes the Zoom stage, as I call it, I'd like to say that her presentation is for educational purposes only. She's not here to treat, diagnose, prescribe, or claim to heal any health condition. So please keep that in mind as you ask your questions. Now I have the distinct pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Carolyn Hoffman, who has been in the field of natural health for over 25 years with a focus on digestive health. I've learned so much from her on how to manage our health, but really, I didn't even realize how much our products help with gut health and how gut health helps the overall body. And it's like your second brain. Some people call it your first brain, but there's a lot to it. She volunteers as a board member on the medical board of ASEA, where she has firsthand knowledge of some of the best research in the redox signaling space. She always amazes me on how she can simplify the science so that within just the hour, after 45 years of research that's out there, we can understand the power of ASEA products so that we can share it with other people. And we can achieve optimal health where there's resilience at a cellular level. So with that, I will let Dr. Hoffman take the Zoom stage.
Thank you so much. Whoops, I have an echo there. Did that go away? Okay, good. But thank you everyone for being here this evening, and thanks for that fabulous introduction, Jeanette. It was just such a beautiful job. And Jeanette's going to come back at the end, and she's actually going to talk about the ethos of this company, the massive decision that Vertis Norton had to make about whether he was to sell this technology or not, and what actually informs the way in which we think about sharing this technology and the whole culture of the company, which is always, we often will talk about being just as important as the product in our estimation. But what I'm going to do is share with you some slides. And my goal as we go through this evening is hopefully to be able to impart to you why I certainly believe that this is the single most influential product technology that I've had the privilege of working with in the last 25 years, but also foundational to our health and just as important as eating good food, making sure that you have good sleep, hydration, all of the things that we physically do that contribute to longevity and do everything that we have the control over to avoid promoting challenges and disease in the body. So let me share my screen with you. And that way we can look and listen either way. So what I want to talk about is, we often discuss this and say, well, this is the master class. I put the fact that I consider this very much a key to the health and longevity of human beings. But it's not just human beings. It's actually also pets and plants that can benefit from this product technology, because we are all driven and are alive and exist because of it. So that's a really interesting piece. So if you have pets in your life, what we're going to talk about can apply equally to them. However, having said that, our product isn't actually designed for pets, but you'll come to understand why they love the benefits of it. And if you're super skeptical, find a pet and put this on them, because there's no placebo with an animal, and you'll soon see how quickly things change for them. Our body is made up of 70 to 100 trillion cells, and that forms all of the tissues and the organs and the systems of the body. But that's guided by genetic expression, the thing that determines whether we promote health and we unfold and we replicate new cells accurately, or whether things go wrong and, like poor conversation, we get a bad outcome. So we're going to be talking right down at this genetic level. So why do we change over time? Well, the real story isn't actually what we're seeing on the outside, although I know that my other co-host Lynn always mentions every week that we talk about the fact that those wrinkles on the outside are a reflection of the oxidative stress and the wrinkles that are literally happening on the inside of the body. So it's what's going to be happening underneath that we want to talk about. We're really rather like having 5-bar service on our phones when we're young. Communication's super good. Everybody has the opportunity to call whomever they want. Phone calls don't drop and everybody can hear each other. But, stuff changes, doesn't it? When you have bad service, we know that phone calls drop, or we hear half a conversation, or maybe we just can't even communicate adequately at all. And really, that's somewhat a reflection of what's changing within the human body. So why do all these diseases, what do they have in common, the things above the line, so to speak? Well, even if everything might look fine above the surface, literally every stressor, which can be toxins, environmental toxins, pesticides, fungicides, all of those things that we're being deluged with nowadays, now whether it's just poor sleep or simply infection, this is an invisible accumulation that's taking place within all of those cells below the surface, so to speak. Now, if the body actually lacks the resources to do the healing necessary, or the call for help, rather like that telephone call, goes unheard, that's where disease begins. So it's actually accumulating under the surface until it becomes overwhelming enough that it pushes above the surface and someone's going to give it a title. But really all that means is that all of those cells that make up the human body, if they're healthy, then we're going to be healthy. But each of those titles above the surface is no more than simply a reflection of the fact that there's dysfunction, damaged cells in whatever organ system relates to our challenge. Now, all of these strategies that I've put on the screen here, whether it's a keto diet, whether it's exercise and ice packs, whether you're doing massive supplementation of vitamins and minerals, etc., or maybe you're doing peptides and stem cells and glutathione, exogenous glutathione, all of these strategies rely on one thing. They are all different types of stressors, interestingly, that are trying to literally activate a healing response in the body. But the body's ability to respond actually starts at a foundation, and that foundation is redox signaling molecules. So very often when we're throwing all these things at the body and we're with good intention trying to help the body actually react and respond in a healthy manner and maybe solve a problem or simply keep us nice and healthy, maybe the question we should be asking if we're not seeing the outcome from whatever we're using is my body actually able to respond to what I'm doing? Now, the language of the cells to communicate and control cellular damage as well as repair is done through this mechanism of redox signaling. Here's a great site that you can look at if you're not familiar with redox, which, to be honest, most of us had never heard of this until someone shared this technology with us. And that would even go for your doctor. If your doctor graduated pre-2008, redox is not even part of their education. And the notion that we actually have a stabilized version of redox signaling isn't something that most of them know anything about either, even if they're kind of a little bit up on the sciences is there. But foundationally, redox homeostasis equals health. And we're going to talk about why that changes. Now, as I said, redox, might not be familiar to you, but it isn't a new field. It's been studied for decades. And it's literally the critical force behind every single function in the human body because we're dialing down to the level of the mitochondria. We have 6 Nobel Prizes in this field, and what you're looking at is just a minor smattering of universities and research facilities around the world who are diving deep into this form of health science because medicine is trying to make the connection between what happens within the redox signaling system when we have health, what goes wrong when we don't, and can they turn something of it into a drug? And we want to tell you that there is no redox-based drug at this point, and it's a tricky little molecule, which is why they're having a lot of problems. But they are researching and they know so much more about it. And, in Paris, France, every year, the world comes together to share the latest fields of redox biology. And you'll see hundreds of thousands of studies. So with these 6 Nobel Prizes and millions of published research on it, they're showing literally the impact on every single system in the body and why it's leading health research. So now your cells, as we're on this call at the moment, are producing 50 million molecules of ATP per second. We can kind of say good job too, because that's the energy of cell function and metabolic health. It's what keeps us alive. It's what allows our bodies to actually exist and do the things that they need to do. Now, the Krebs cycle doesn't just make the fuel for the body, it creates these redox signaling molecules. These are the messengers that tell the energy that the body's producing, where do we need to direct that energy? What needs more support? When do we need to stop sending extra energy in a certain area because maybe there's too much there and it's not functioning correctly? When to stop repairing, when to start repairing, when to build cells that we need. Literally every conversation is predicated on a redox signal and instruction. Now, oxidants, and that is the OX part of redox, are sounding the alarm when cells are stressed or they're damaged. So we want those. They're rather like our smoke alarm in our house. Reductants, which is the RED from redox, coordinate the response to that alarm bell. The repair, the regeneration, the genetic expression is all because of that response to the signal. So health, when we are in a good place of health with a very good redox homeostasis, in other words, a balanced response mechanism to every damage call, there is a way to get the body to enact some form of healing. That means that health is super fast, right? Healing is quick and the response is quick. Disease is when the help to those signals does not arrive, or because the communication has broken down and the signal for help isn't heard. ATP basically, therefore, provides the power that generates the energy for the body, and the redox signals direct it, highlighting where the system is literally out of sync. In other words, that system is not in balance, it's not in homeostasis. So health is metabolic balance. It's neither too, those organs are moving neither too fast nor too slow. Now, biology has an inbuilt process of aging that actually starts in puberty. None of us think for one single second in our teens that we've actually started the aging process. But it begins there. Around late in puberty, we start to lose these redox signaling molecules at 1% per year that will remain on this planet. So that's a 10% drop every decade. And the production of redox that we make as we get older ages with us. So it's not as efficient as it would be if we were young. We kind of know that, even though we may not think about it. We look at our kids, we look at our grandchildren, we look at anyone who's a lot younger than us and pre-20, right? They heal super fast, right? They recover very quickly. They fall over, they don't break bones that cause them to lose their life eventually, right? They're not running around all day and then groaning the next day about being sore, right? It's because their redox system is working at high efficiency to hear the signal and to repair it immediately. That changes with age. We know that. In our 30s, we probably don't feel quite so sharp as we did in our 20s. That's shifting by the time we're in our 40s. And when we get to 60, we really wish we were 40 again, right? We remember how much has altered. And that's all of this mechanism of loss that's going below the surface. Now, until 2009, unless you ran a marathon every day or you were super, super, super engaged in really high-level activity of energy and exercise, there wasn't really an awful lot that we could directly do to impact this loss. But in 2009, things changed. So after 10 years of publicly traded research, Verdis Norton, who you can see on this screen, was helping bring forward a scientific breakthrough that was once considered unattainable. You remember I mentioned that these are highly volatile, quickly fleeting electrical charges. They're molecules, a bit like trying to grab hold of the firefly at night, right? You see the light, but they're gone. These are fast-moving electrical charges. Science has said that it's not possible to stabilize redox signaling molecules outside the human body in a bioactive form. And until 2007, the production of them had a lifespan of about 10 minutes in scientific research. Can't do much with that. They could study it, but you can't really do much outside the actual laboratory. But in 2007, having purchased 10 years of publicly traded research with these same signaling messengers, and knowing that this original company had got their hands on something really brilliant, but they didn't really truly understand what it was, he pulled together a different team of PhD researchers, and together they stabilized these molecules to have a lifespan of 12 months. That was a breakthrough, an absolute breakthrough, because it resulted in this bioavailable, non-toxic solution designed to support cellular communication at a traditional level that nutrients are not going to do, because they don't engage in redox in the same way at all. And they certainly don't have any bioactive redox molecules. And we're going to talk more about that research and the goal of where they were going to go with it and what changed Verdis's decision. Now, inside the body, our cells are generating, as I said, redox signaling molecules in our mitochondria in that Krebs cycle. And they're making it from simple elements such as the salt and water that makes up the human body. We all think instinctively if we go into hospital, we know we're going to get a saline bottle tapped up to us if we're dehydrated or we're in an operation or we've maybe had an accident. And that's because that's the language of how the cells take those ingredients to make redox signaling. The breakthrough was learned in how to create that stabilized version outside the body. And so using an electrochemical process, the saline is transformed into redox signaling molecules, the same process as the mitochondria is doing. We can't deviate from it. We can't start with anything different. We have to do it exactly the same ingredients and the same process that the mitochondria is functioning. So the saline is transformed into redox signaling molecules, and it's designed to mirror the chemistry of our cells to rely upon this communication. So we basically break down the components of saline into the sodium, chloride, hydrogen, and oxygen, and it plays this really fancy, sophisticated game of Scrabble, so to speak. We're giving you 4 tiles. Go make as many redox molecules as you can, and we're doing exactly the same thing in our process. So what you see in the bottle on the right-hand side, as we call it, our big blue bottle, is stabilized bioactive redox signaling molecules. These are, it's an amazing piece of science. This is positive and negative electrical charges sitting in there that do not join together. This is defying what science said could never happen. And they work by combining the moment we put them in our body, because we become the catalyst as an organic system. And so they go to work brilliantly. Actually, if you've got a bottle of it, you'll know that it comes with a little cap like this, about a 2-ounce delivery. And what we do is to actually put it in our mouth and swish it around, because this is where the body picks up those redox signaling molecules in the mucosal membranes of the mouth. It goes up to the brain and it's dispersed through this beautiful network communication of cellular function, literally instantaneously. This is not like swallowing a capsule, where you have to digest it and ingest it and deliver it to the cell membrane. And half the time, most of that stuff doesn't get there because there's so many complex problems and so many ineffective digestive systems on this planet. And so you might take those things, but you're not necessarily getting the benefit of them. So here the beauty is that it is going to work the moment it's in your mouth. It's already communicating everything it needs to do everywhere around the body. So we are moving out of this space where we think in terms of one pill for one problem. We're now coming to this unifying universe of cells that communicate instantaneously across the whole body. And if anybody's seen us do work with our gels, for example, it's very possible for us to put the gel on our neck, for example, and yet impact someone's discomfort in their knee. We don't even actually have to touch it. And that is not the brilliance so much of the product. This is the brilliance of how the body works. And I think that was what Alan was referencing at the end of that last interview. Here is our FDA-registered facility in Utah. This is the only facility in the world, because of our 7 patents and 1,000 trade secrets, where we make the world's supply of this product. From here, we ship to 20 different locations around the world to supply to the local distribution areas in 35 countries. So if you're drinking this today, this is where your product is made, and you're looking at various stages that the product goes through in those tanks. But you're actually getting it if you live in Australia, you're going to get from the local market there, or Holland if it's Europe. It's not coming directly from the United States to your door, but it goes directly to the door of every consumer. And we don't deal with third-party companies at all. So what you're going to know is that you're buying from the company, you're going to get pure, beautiful, fresh product that turns over literally every 90 days. Stocking and the way that we work is incredibly controlled for that reason. We also provide a 30-day money-back guarantee, and so you want to work with whoever's invited you here today, because they're going to be your support person to help you learn about this whole different approach to supporting your own health. James Watson on the left, who received a Nobel laureate for his discovery of the DNA, has highlighted in the Lancet that redox imbalance is a central feature to diseases such as cancer and diabetes and cardiovascular disease. He actually went on to even say that he really believed that redox deficiency was behind every type of disease. And I truly believe that that is the case, but it raises this bigger question, right? How many conditions begin with a breakdown in our cellular communication that leads to some kind of dysfunction? So for the last 15 years, ASEA has actually been producing products that contain the same redox signaling molecules that your own body is making as we speak this evening. It's kind of reassuring to know that we are producing it, because if within 3 seconds of not producing it, we're actually dead. That's how essential this is. We can actually hold our breath longer and go without oxygen than we can not make redox molecules. So that should kind of tell you how important I believe that they are. This company is the first and only cell signaling supplement on the market. We defined an entirely new category as a result of it. We're classified differently around the world. We're a nutritional supplement in the North American market. We're a food in Europe, and yet we are a water in Asia. That kind of tells you that nobody really knows what to do with us, and they just try to find somewhere to put us. We kind of a bit of a round peg, or rather a square peg in a round hole might be the way we could describe it. We don't really fit into any traditional category whatsoever. We manufacture to the highest standards of independent third-party testing and verification. And the BQC label that you see on the right is two specialist sites in Spain and also in Germany who do research into redox and take our batches regularly. Every fourth batch goes to them for independent testing. What that means is on the back of the labels, you're going to see that validation that what you're buying is not salt and water, it's bioactive stabilized redox signaling molecules. We are an FDA registered facility. We meet GMP standards. We produce towards halal and kosher. But we also support the Olympic and professional athletic arena. And as a result, we also meet all of those sports requirements of WADA and NSF. In other words, you're getting exactly what it says on the label, and it's guaranteed. Some approaches, such as pharmaceutical drugs, for example, will force the change in our body, right? That's what they are as chemistry. They're fast and they're targeted, and they all do the same things all the time because that's what they are. They're not supportive, they're not natural, they're against nature, but they push and they make certain outcomes occur. But the body's inner doctor doesn't work on demand in the same way. And I think sometimes people move from not wanting to be on medication to trying some alternative to replace that. And they think that the body should respond immediately in the same way that a drug will produce a response. And that's just not the way the human body functions. However, clinical observations that we are close to publishing in peer-reviewed study reflect this significant drop in inflammatory markers that we're seeing. And these emerge for us in our studies around month 3 and 4. And I show this screen just to show that in natural healing of how the body works and its expectations, month 3 and 4 is where the biggest shift begins to take place as we work through these processes of recalibrating cells that don't work so well. So the real recovery is just like fitness, it's built into at a system level, and it's over time and with consistency. And that's one of the key things that's very important. So if you're the kind of person that comes to natural health and you're a little inclined to say, well, I'll try it for a month, and if I don't see my 5-year problem go away, then it didn't work. I'm going to challenge you to understand that it, regardless of whatever you're using, is not the challenge. It's the fact that your body has to make use of whatever you're giving it in order to be doing its own healing. Now, we know with our science, because it's chemistry, we have this strange phrase. We say it cannot not work. Right? Scientifically, there is no way that a redox molecule can't function and can't trigger and do the things it's supposed to in the human body. But the healing and how quickly your body is going to demonstrate that is your personal journey. So time and consistency are going to be key. So how do you know what it's doing when we drink it? Where's the body going to prioritize the use of these additional molecules? Well, we have trackers, and your friend would be able to give you one of these. And we'd invite you on day one to track every piece about you. I don't know whether you're here because of cardiovascular challenges, or maybe it's cognition, maybe it's creaky joints, right? That may be your big thing that you're trying to change, but we want you to track because your body is going to disperse this information in every cell. And then your body is going to prioritize where it activates the healing. And sometimes your healing might be literally pretty rapid, and you might, within the first week, be one of people that sees 10 to 15% of you will see changes. Maybe it's your energy that goes up. Maybe your sleep starts to improve. Perhaps you're one of these people that finds themselves getting up and going to the bathroom 2 or 3 times a night, and that changes. That might be your aha of where it's already started. But it might not mean that you're going to see a turnaround in your creaky joints within a week. Now, we know that if you drink 4 ounces a day, which is 2 of these little cups in your first week, 10 to 15% of you are going to be excited because you're seeing some big thing go on. If you don't see a big thing, then recheck after the end of the first week, recalibrate and see what's going on. But if you see a little change or you see no change, we suggest that you double up. Drink 2 of these in the morning and 2 of them at night. Supersaturate yourself a little quicker. It's like that renovation process. We've got more troops that come on board. The projects can happen quicker. At the end of a month, 50% of people following those instructions are definitely going to be excited about their progress. But the biggest shifts, again, kind of mirroring what we see in natural health from that previous screen, mean that 90% of people are excited by the time they get to month 3. But our inflammatory markers, our drop in literally 83% of inflammation is showing up in our clinical studies in month 3 and 4. So we really want you to stick it out because it's a never-ending process of working on helping you keep healthy that's going to go on. So let's have a look at Rosie. I always love to show this, right? We know that inflammation causes disease. Disease causes inflammation. That's well studied nowadays. And in fact, science came up with the term a few years ago of inflammaging. In other words, aging through inflammation. That's that oxidative stress on the inside. I like to talk about Rosie because this is a remarkable journey backwards in time, and why I say this is the single most influential product technology that I've ever worked with. Right? There is no product on the market, no single product on the market that can do what this does because they don't contain redox signaling. Here we have Rosie in her real life journey at 84. And I think you probably all agree with me. She doesn't exactly look like, bubbling full of energy there and a picture of health. There's an awful lot of oxidative stress that's very clear on the outside. And there's not much energy in those eyes, kind of what we expect as people begin to fade towards the end of their life. Her son's a doctor. He put her on this product. And we would like to encourage you when you start your journey, take photos. Because photograph number 2 here, the second one on the right, was her 7 weeks later. If her son hadn't taken the photo of her at the beginning, she probably wouldn't have agreed with him that anything was changing because she didn't think it was making a difference. But when she saw the 2, she decided to continue taking it. The third photo of her is her at 87, and here she is at 91. So, do you not agree with me that I think this is pretty much a very unusual situation to be able to see? Someone who looks like this in their 80s, and yet 7 years later looks at least 10 years younger than when they started. That is not what's supposed to happen, right? You're not supposed to reverse age. You're not supposed to start to get to look younger, especially in your 90s. Right? But this is because you have the opportunity here to put yourself in the driving seat of your own health. You have the opportunity to counteract the natural loss that you are going to experience by just being on planet Earth. Every year, you're going to lose 1% of these. And with that is a tip towards more uncontrolled inflammation, more disease as a result of inadequate healing. And so by drinking this on a daily basis, we can refill our cup. We can make up for that loss, and we can begin to walk our body back to a time where we start to feel like we're maybe 5 years younger than we currently are, or maybe 10 years younger than we currently are. And if anyone's seen photos of Jeanette in her renewal of her 10-year renewal on her driving license, 10 years ago, she looks older than she does now, right? So this is a testament to what we're seeing, is that you're renewing and helping the body to stay ahead of the curve. Now, what's in this bottle is also in this tube. People were spraying the liquid all over their body for the first 5 years, getting amazing benefits from discomfort and skin healing, and everybody's a little messy. And they did ask, can we produce a gel? But these are highly active molecules, and it took them 5 years to find a silica clay that wouldn't activate those molecules until it was put on your skin. You can see here it's totally clear. What is unique is that the moment it's on the skin, the signaling is already happening. And as I said, I've been able to place this around people's necks and change discomfort in their knees, because the communication across the body is universal. But why is it called Renew 28? Because we've got clinical studies on 28 days. It speeds up skin cell turnover by 16% in 28 days. In other words, that is directly anti-aging. This is our go-to, right? Everybody loves this because nobody really wants wrinkles on their face, but you can place it wherever you want because it's a beautiful product for any kind of skin issue. And you're seeing here not simply the 16% speed up, but the 20 to 23% change in fine lines and wrinkles and elasticity and calming the skin. So this is our all-over body skin therapy, and it's broad spectrum, like the drink, because it has exactly the same redox components in there, and that activates all the cells. Now we said, we're seeing all these things. It would be lovely to know, does this product activate genetic expression? So back in 2017, Torit Labs, who are specialists in genetics, ran an 8-week double-blind placebo-controlled study on our product, taking healthy 35-year-olds who, interestingly, when they analyzed their genetic expression, found that they're already down-regulating. Now, I don't think a healthy 35-year-old feels like their genes are down-regulating and not working, but that's what's happening below the surface. They put them on 8 ounces of Acea Redox for 8 weeks. They put the placebo group on the same saline that we use before it becomes the Acea Redox. And at the end of that study, when they retested genetic expression levels again, 100% of the people drinking the Acea Redox had a 20 to 31% improvement in 5 genetic pathways. Now, we actually know, because I've spoken to the scientists at the time, all the genes improved, but science at that point really didn't know how to clearly map everything. And so they just chose to talk about the 5 genetic pathways, which were clearly mapped, and they could understand all those mechanisms. So what would that mean for you, whether you've got a health issue or whether you're just here because you want to stay proactive, you're into biohacking, and this is the foundation of it? What's it going to help? Immune system, cardiovascular health with vein elasticity, improving gut health and digestive enzyme production, modulating hormone balance and vitality and wellness, supporting the body's ability to respond to external stresses. That's your inbuilt defense mechanism, the thing that should say, you know what, I can recognize a stressor, whether it's an environmental toxin, an emotional one, a food or a drink, anything that's going to threaten your body should respond and mount a defense mechanism so that you're not affected by it. And the key to whether you're likely to be more affected by viruses and bacteria is how strong your internal stressor response is. But supporting that would be super important. And as we said, inflammation causes disease and disease causes inflammation. So maintaining a healthy inflammatory response, it might say due to physical exercise, because that's one of those definition things that we have to put in there. But being alive is exercising, right? You may be a couch potato sitting on there, but you're still exercising. We're still producing oxidative stress, even if you're not running around. But obviously, if you're a runner or you do lots of intense exercise, a really important thing to do. So this is going to impact major systems in the body that are really key if you want long-term health. I mentioned there are 5 pathways. Now, each genetic pathway opens a door to multiple other signaling messengers because it's turning on and off switches that recruit the things that need to happen for us to stay healthy. So there are 15 pathways behind that inflammatory door. You can see in blue the things that those particular pathways might affect. So if you kind of recognize that you've got some challenges with mood or gut health, then pathway number 1 is not as strong as it needs to be. But let's look at the one in yellow here. NRF2 is the inbuilt sprinkler system, as I call it, for the human cell. This is, the alarm goes off and the sprinkler system goes on in the hotel to make sure that it quashes the fire. That's the body's same signal. When we have inflammation, it triggers this NRF2, which recruits our master antioxidant glutathione. I got super excited about this science back in 2009, long before I knew anything about redox, because this is working in every single cell. And if we can activate our body to respond and put out the problem on the site, this is an amazing way to be able to counteract long-term damage. So we said, you know what, if we activate this, but we activate every cell, what about is that if we could study a way and find a way that we could just tap into that inflammatory pathway, just be able to really kind of laser focus our power on that inflammatory response so the body could be more powerful in combating a challenge. And 4 years of research out of Western Australia University in Sydney and Bath University in England helped us tailor that. By studying our redox species, they tweaked them and they found that molecular gold together was able to create a cell response to oxidation that was 160% stronger. In turn, the cells can then increase their healing response through the glutathione by up to 280%. That is massive. It's like having a huge fire rescue crew inside every cell dealing with the problem on site. And this is what we have, this beautiful product that's been out just about a year now, called Redox Gold. It provides rapid relief in response to the problem. And with long-term use, it is triggering and helping the cells know how to recover and heal. This is a different kind of texture to it. It'll still look the same. It's still totally clear. If you look at it in the light, you'll actually see pieces of 24-karat gold and the molecular gold, because that activates these different redox species. This one you're going to massage in. The other one you don't. The moment you put it on the skin, communication is across the whole of the body. This one is targeting a problem. Now, if you've got discomfort somewhere, or you've got too much heat coming somewhere in the body, or you've got range of motion restrictions, this is the one you want to try. We've been doing the work with this for a long time, but now we can do it much quicker with this. So check out whatever your issue is, range of motion, discomfort, rate it from 1 to 10. Take photos if you've got limitations. Maybe it's just a stiff neck. See how far you can turn it. Take this gel, apply about a blueberry size to your area and massage it in. And then start watching the clock. Our goal with this one is that within 3 minutes, if you haven't seen something, we want you to apply it again and apply it around the neck over the vagus nerve that helps to stimulate the wanderer, the longest moving pathway through the body that can pull us into the state of healing. Keep checking that time. If at 10 minutes you haven't seen anything happen, we want you to repeat with the white one, because that's going to activate other signaling messengers, and put it also over the neck. However, most people are going to see something pretty rapid within the first 3 minutes with this. Our goal is to try to get you to a 0. It might not always happen, for sure, within that 10 minutes or so. But 9 out of 10 people are really super excited about what they see. And sometimes those recovery moments can be so quick because the body is reacting to these redox signaling molecules that it just seems like a little breathtaking, to be honest. but it is your body responding to those redox signaling molecules and kick-starting your internal communication. So we have these two products that are topicals. The Redox Gold, which is all about relief, discomfort, soothing muscles, providing targeted support. And then the other benefits are the skin side of things. The one on the right, we really will use for things that irritate, itch, cuts, bruises, any of those kinds of things. You'll find that it will somewhat replace what you use over the counter. We did thermographic studies on our gold, and you'll know that heat is very easy to detect. And so what we looked at in the clinical settings was how much heat was coming from each test candidate, and we did quite a few hundred of them. And then with an application of the gold, what changed? And you'll see we went from all these yellows to reds, and in the ones below in the clinical studies, everything was calming down. So we can see how quickly that this is working. Now, when you bring your cellular communication back online through using redox signaling molecules, we're going to see diverse ways in which the body addresses problems. As I said, we're not thinking about symptoms, we're moving to systems, because the unifying thing is if every cell is healthy, then we're going to be healthy. So whether you've got a breathing issue, it's a damaged lung cell challenge. You know, if it's losing hair and hormones, we know that that's a damage in that system of hormonal communication. So these are all things that I've seen happen with clients using one product technology. And that's what's so beautiful about this, is that instead of having to think of a symptom, we can actually think of the fact, well, does that symptom involve a damaged cell? And the answer is always going to be yes. So what we're doing here when we're replenishing is supporting cellular communication and our total stress load. So we're not looking at the quick fix, the overnight thing. We're looking for the cumulative effect and for long-term health and longevity. And so how much does your body use? Don't know. We're going to tell you to start with the 4 ounces, as I outlined before. If you see nothing change in the first week, double it up and go to 8 ounces. Fill up that glass a little quicker and help see what your body's doing with it. Once you get into a space where you can check off all those boxes and you're feeling really good, then you can play with it, reduce it, take less, see if your body's still going to sustain that improvement, and find exactly where the sweet spot is for you. You'll probably talk to 100 different people, and we may all take different quantities in different ways, because we are tailoring this to our unique needs rather than one thing fits all. Now, we have, as I said, Olympic athletes on this. I would go to the discoverredox.com page if you want to see more about all the types of athletes. But our studies at Appalachian Human Performance Labs in North Carolina show that athletically we get a 29% increase in endurance and faster recovery. It's one of the reasons why we've had Olympic gold medalists on this since their high school age of 14 for Brie Larson, right? Because it gives them the athletic edge, sharper mental acuity, sharper response time. Now, that's all beautiful, but we don't have to be an Olympic athlete to benefit from 29% increase in endurance. It's not going to work differently on them than it will on us. So what does that mean for your life? Are there ways that you would love to have an increase in endurance and energy? More time in your day and more energy to fill it would be a wonderful thing sometimes, because sometimes as we get older, we just don't have the energy left to do the things that we love. But it's a beautiful opportunity to use something that's totally non-toxic. You can actually drink a whole bottle of this a day if you needed to. We hope you don't. You can't be allergic to it because, as we said, we're all making it as we speak, and this is literally the same signaling messengers. And one thing that's very unique, if you're on medication, this is transparent to meds. In other words, it's not going to interfere with how your medication works. So you can safely take meds, stay on your meds. It's not our job to change that. Add this in and then just track the changes. Now, I'm not going to say that you might find that you feel different as time moves on and you may not need those meds, but your doctor is the one who's going to make that adjustment for you. I said that we are the first and only cell signaling company in the planet. And as a result of it, we've had to invest hundreds of millions of dollars with renowned places for them to say, take our product and teach us about this. Why do we see all the things that we see that people talk about in their health, all these changes? What is it that's making this do this? Because there's nobody else around for us to refer to who can educate us on what we've created. Remember, we've created a market that never existed. And so you can see some of those studies here. I'm going to finish up by saying, if you're the kind of person that likes to know, well, what do other people see and how does that work? We have a great Facebook group that you can go to where people post their own stories and their photos and their testimonials. And you can go to this site, the Real Redox Results, for more stories on our recorded interviews. We're going to come to the ethos that Jeanette's going to take over here. I'm just going to swap back on the screen here and pass it over to Jeanette to do the other really important piece of this whole project.
Thank you, Carolyn. I always enjoy hearing that. That one slide with the iceberg gets me every time. I don't care how many times I see it. It just reminds me that things are happening all the time, whether we see it or not, good or bad. And it can be a long time before something bad pops up. So I'd rather have a lot of good underneath by taking ASEA. So part of the ethos, as Carolyn has mentioned, is that, we were in ASEA didn't start as a network marketing company. It started as a research firm. I think Carolyn hinted at that earlier. And when Vertus Norton was able to be exposed to this technology, and he took a deep dive into it, his family thought he was crazy, first of all, because it was salt water. And he really told them, no, this is going to change the world. But in his very conservative view of how business was run, he thought that it was only to be, he didn't know any other way. So he was going to bring it to a pharmaceutical company. And when he went that route, what happened was the pharmaceutical company did their due diligence. And what their view was, okay, this product does everything you say it's going to do. And we're going to give you a check large enough that you won't need to go anywhere else. Your family and your family's families will be taken care of for generations. And they thought that would be enough. But they didn't realize who they were talking to. Something in Vertus, after he'd retired and had seen the profound difference that this product made for people that were just sharing it, word of mouth, really shifted something in him. This wasn't about making a profit. It was not about making money. It was about helping people. So he turned down an 8-figure check. I've never seen an 8-figure check. I don't think I'd know what to do with an 8-figure check. I'd be a little stunned. But this man knew he could turn it down and that he was going to find a way to get this product out to the world. And that's what he did. And when he did that, that decision became the basis of all of our ethos. And as a brand partner with this company, I can tell you they take this very seriously. You really are a partner. They are about people over profits. And it's so critical in a time like today when not everybody keeps their word to you. No matter how many economic changes we've gone through, no matter how many people, and there have been quite a few, who keep coming back to the company, wanting to buy them, wanting to get this technology, they say no. They are committed to this business model because they want us to succeed. They want us to feel good. They want us to have access to this product. A lot of people do not have proper healthcare access. And to be able to have a product like this is healthcare in a bottle. And I firmly believe that because it's really a powerful thing to be empowered by your own self to pick up one bottle and know that you're taking care of yourself, taking back your ownership of your health. And also within all that ethos and the decisions that the company makes, they started a branch of ASEA called Advancing Life Foundation. And I am so impressed with what we do in that Advancing Life Foundation. We give back to communities that have very little. They're not communities who support ASEA. They're not communities who help build ASEA. They're communities that are out there in third world countries that need better education. They need better water. We've gone into South Africa. We've gone into different Latin American countries. We've gone into very, very remote areas to help them build wells and do a variety of things. We've taught women how to have a trade so that when we leave, they have a skill that they can carry forward. It's not just because we're there, we're making a difference. The intent is that when we leave, we've left something with them that they can continue to build and expand on for themselves, for their families, and for whatever the generations beyond that. And that is how come when we say we're a legacy company, our ethos stands behind that word legacy. It's in so many of the aspects that we do, not just our products, our partnership, our relationships, and how we want to make a difference in the world with the Advancing Life Foundation. And so there are so many other ways that I look forward to with this company that help us share who we are in ASEA. My favorite about ASEA is that our motto is Ubuntu. And if you haven't heard that term, I encourage you to look it up. If you have, I remind you that it means that I am who I am because of who we are. It tears me up. Sorry, didn't even expect that. I just love truly after 11, 12 years that we have the relationships within our organization with for and with one another and the people that we have yet to share this product with. And so with that, this evening, I hope that whatever you take away from this, you decide to try this product. It's the only way you're going to know what it's going to do for yourself. We have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Everything Carolyn said was based on science, her experience, the experience of her patients. And I encourage you to just try it and see what happens and come back and share your story here. And so I think that our presentation for the night has been completed, right, Carolyn? And now we can answer some questions.
Absolutely.
Are we in